Welcome, friends, fiends, and familiars to the Comic Fiends Comic Friends. On this show, I have conversations with friends from all over about comics. This week, I chat with a graphic designer friend about Sunday funnies and adapting comics for animation or other media. Welcome to the Comic Fiends Comic Friends. This week I have my friend 18 or 18 floors up. So go ahead, introduce yourself. How do we know each other?
Well, it all began one fall day. We know each other from college. I was a lowly freshman and you were what, third year?
Yes, that's
And
right.
I was looking for a home away from home, and I happened to run into you at a mixer luau where...
It was a luau. That is super weird.
Yes, it was a luau, and it was one of those park get-together things where we decided to like mingle with all the other people from our club, the Filipino club. And I had a deck of cards in my pocket because for a while there I was always walking around with this stripper deck or maybe it was a Svengali deck. I can't remember. But either way, it was a magic gag sort of deck. And then you came around and you decided to show me some cool flourishes. And I would say it was onwards and upwards since then.
That's right. I mean, you just added to
the magic of your life. Yeah. I know.
The full cast of characters that we decided to become, or something like that.
Yes.
So desperate to be a TV show.
Desperate
that nobody was watching. But yeah. Yeah, I think that about sums it up.
Yeah.
So, all right. What kind of comics do you read?
Well, currently I'm not reading any comics. I mean, I could get into the comics that I used to read, or the ones that really started me off.
Sure, but by that I mean like what are you into? Are you into like comics, manga, web comics, whatever it is? If this, I guess, to be broad here.
Okay, to be broad.
What you like.
Lately, I've been really into web comics.
Okay.
And just like short, maybe like single panel to 4-panel sort of slice of life. If you can get it within a few sentences, and then you've got my attention. Is sort of a thing that I've been into. Anything that I can quickly pick up. I guess it kind of goes with sort of what's been so of our culture recently, of something really quick, like a meme or a GIF. So I would say like the single to 4-panel webcomic has been the equivalent of that for me.
I see. Like super easy to digest, like really easy to pick up, put down.
Yeah. And usually most of it, yeah. And I would say it's very situational. So if it's something I can relate to in the moment, then it brings me like an increasing amount of joy versus something that I would have to follow like a narrative that would have to build up over time.
Okay. And so that's currently what you're into, is what you're saying, or what you... But in the past, would you say that you wanted the narrative, or is it...
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I had gotten into comics through anime, which led me to manga, which led me to reading mostly adaptations of the anime that I watched. And so the Gundam Wing mangas were my thing growing up. And so having sort of this alternate narrative into the one that I watched was something really interesting. But also at the end of those, at the end of the manga version of Gundam Wing, they actually had 4-panel comics. And so there were a bunch of short stories at the end of that sort of started getting me in, probably into that format really early on, whether I knew it or not.
Okay. That makes... I can see that. So I feel like you've sort of answered a little bit the next question, which just it sort of happens anyway, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Which is how you started reading comics. You mentioned Gundam Wing.
Yeah.
So is that what your entry point was? Is like you were like, I want to know more about this, and so that's what you went to go look for, or was it before that there was another big?
I can't truly remember what my first thing was. It might have been like it might have been Pokemon because I had a novelization of Pokemon that had pictures in it. So maybe that was my first comic, and I never even knew. But
Wait, like
I would say that
those big comic book sized Pokemon things that they printed for a while, or
no, it was like an adaptation of the American anime put into like a novel form. And so it would be like a short kind of like Berenstain Bear thickness sort of chapter book, but not really.
That's really weird. Interesting, but weird.
Yeah. That's how I knew the entire the entire theme song for a while, because they would put the lyrics in the back as well.
Of course.
There was that, and then I think because I got into anime, I started looking for manga versions of anime that I liked. Of course, like even though I like InuYasha, I think the sheer number of books for that just turned me off.
But yeah, that's sort of why. It's also why I haven't. I mean, to be fair, I probably read stuff that's longer than that, and it's actually already over. Because, well, I mean, I don't know what the chapter count is, but if you look at, for example, One Piece's chapter count, it's like 800 something at this point.
Wow.
Which InuYasha is at least that. Well, I don't know. I don't know what that is.
I feel like it might have been in the 700s, and I could be wrong, but
something like that.
Wow.
But I mean, like, if you're talking about, because this is a time when probably you would try to go to Barnes & Noble or Borders and buy these things, that would be a lot for, a middle schooler, early high schooler to buy.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But I was one of those girls who would, like, sit in the aisle, just read for hours on end. I mean, mostly because I just love books, but also it was just the thing to do, to sit with your manga and read it.
Yeah. People are still doing it. It's great. Like sometimes I go to a Barnes and Noble and people are just doing that. I'm like, cool. People still like to read the thing in the aisle and just sit there all day reading stuff they can't afford to buy or whatever.
Exactly, and it still brings the same amount of joy. It's the safety of being in a library and just getting lost inside a book. Except it's in a place where typically people pay, but nobody really cares because it's books. And like, it's fine.
Right.
Because thank goodness you walked in here. At least there's that.
Well, yeah. Until it starts hurting the store, I don't know. I don't know if that's measurable, but yeah.
I'm trying to think of when I got. Actually, it's hitting me. It's earlier than that.
Huh.
Yes, I think that those were the first like book form comics that I bought was manga. I fell in love with the funnies.
There it is.
At a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about, Blondie, Beetle Bailey. I
didn't realize the Blondie
has been around that long.
Well, no, actually, I don't even know if it's running anymore. I haven't looked at the funnies in a while. I didn't realize who Blondie was. Of course, Blondie's the wife, right?
The wife, not the guy, right?
Yeah, he's Dagwood, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, that's out there now. Yeah.
I know, Blondie's the wife.
We just how your brain works. It's like he's the guy that's in all the things, so that's Blondie, right?
Yeah, because he's the main character, so he's got to be the main name.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah. Nope. We were just conditioned to think that way.
Oh, God.
Okay, so that's really where it started.
That was where it started. Garfield. I would spend a lot of like my early childhood like drawing and redrawing comics, like trying to make my own newspaper. And even though like I was literally redrawing panels from comics, it was still like, I like this panel of Garfield, so I will redraw it on my own.
Redrawing it or tracing it?
I think I would I feel like I would redraw it.
Okay.
Like I would attempt to.
Yeah. I was tracing. I did the same thing with Calvin and Hobbes, and I would actually just trace the panels and make my own little short things.
Right,
I don't know
yeah.
where those things are, but it was just
Like
a
you
lot.
would make your own narratives with it, or you would make your own storylines?
Yeah, like a short strip or something, not like a full story. But yeah, there it is. Which we just I think we just have to give you a copy of something because I don't think you're gonna read it on your own at this point.
No, unless it's a single 4-panel comic.
There's your late Christmas gift, early birthday present right there. But anyway, there we go. Okay, so you were there any on the subject of the Sunday funnies? Were there any besides Garfield and the ones you listed that you really like cherish or like really remember?
I feel like Garfield was like really when I was younger. The ones that come to mind when I got older, I feel like I always enjoyed Get Fuzzy for some reason and Pearls Before Swine. Like I still have it with me. I cut out a panel from Pearls Before Swine years back, and I just had it in my room. I think right now I have it packed away somewhere, but it's still like really important to me for no reason other than it's really funny to me. I think it was some panel about a soldier duck.
I don't think I ever really. I've seen some, but I don't think I really read that much of Pearls Before Swine. Not that I have anything against it, just haven't gone through that one. And then there's the one you mentioned was Get Fuzzy, I think, right? Is that the one with the dog and the cat and the right?
So, the guy, yeah.
That's so specific. Actually, I've also just described Garfield, but you know what I mean. I can picture this. Like they're drawn in. I don't know.
They're kind of messier. It's a little bit grungy. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Grungy.
Like inky. Yeah.
Right.
Zits.
Yeah. Yes. Do you know Zits dated itself?
No.
Like, I think. They had, I don't know what years these were, but what were they called? Back in the early 2000s, the colorful Mac machines, the iMacs.
Yes, those, right? Yes.
Yeah, so at some point they had, is it Zach?
Jeremy, because I remember I used to pronounce it Jeremy.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go, Jeremy. New nickname, but yeah. So I don't know. Zach is also a quintessential '90s dude name.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, they had Jeremy on one of those colorful iMacs, and then they made a joke about technology being a certain way, and then in a recent strip, I want to say it could have been as recent as the last 2 years. They dug up that same model iMac, like the parents had it. And the parents, and then Jeremy was like, what is that? Like, what is this dinosaur machine? Does it run on gasoline or whatever? And I was like, somebody made a post or something that had the two next to each other, but it's super like, you can't, like, you're frozen in time, dude. Like, this is just going to happen, I think.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just funny.
No.
Like, that's what happens.
Yeah, I feel like you always sort of, at least a lot of, I would say a lot of comics have no physical context of the current times. At least I'm thinking, or maybe because I'm only thinking animal comics, right?
Yeah.
Sherman's Lagoon, Pearls Before Swine, like
right.
I'm like, oh yeah, there's no evidence of technology or the now in those, but
right. But I mean, like, yeah,
it's very
Zits
skewed.
In particular has an aesthetic that has like, I think has that sort of grunge late '90s, post '90s look to it, right? Like Baby Blues grew up a little bit or something, or not that that's a completely accurate description of it, but you know what I mean, like Pretty clean designs, save for the flannel, I think, that Jeremy's wearing.
Yeah,
and the baggy jeans, which...
Those shoes.
And shoes, yeah. Which went in and then out of style, and now it's sort of back in again. I don't know. Like, so it's sort of looped back around to being visually relevant again.
Yeah, relevant.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. But yeah, like that. Yeah, that seems like it would appeal to you visually, right? Okay. So I think we can flow right into this next one. But so what is it that you like about comics? Like, what can you get from this media that you can't really get from anywhere else? Like, based on what I've heard from you so far is kind of like that if you want more of something, you're going towards this. Like you see something animated or whatever, or you get a taste of something, but you want more, so you go towards this without going straight into like novels or like. Is that?
Yeah, I never thought about that. It almost captures the time flow that's offered in, say, animation or a motion picture, without without all the effort, and also with you can focus on individuals. You can focus on the keyframes. So if I think of comic panels as keyframes, so you can linger and you can savor a moment, and sort of fill in the blanks on your own. So I think it offers that. It condenses all of, say, the important moments into as many panels as the artist desires. Whether you can capture it, if you can capture it in one, that's great. If you can capture it in 3 or 4, or maybe an entire visual novel. So I think it offers the expression of the hand, like in mark making from an artist, which you don't get in something more photographic, like photography or film. So it offers that level of expression, and at the same time, it offers time and flow and narrative, where, say, a painting or a single drawing without words might not get.
This is a very scholarly answer, I feel like. That I'm not. No, this it was an excellent answer. It was really, like, I think it was really thought provoking.
It's funny because I've only ever been presented with that question once before, and it was in college. It was when I was learning about modern art and photography and technological advances in the arts, and I forget if it was the book or the professor had posed us like, well, then what's the point of every different media, or of every different medium? Like you have to find the point in each sometimes, of like, well, photography is for capturing the details of it, whereas painting of it is like, maybe it's only for capturing the gesture of it, like determining the meaning for every process. And so, yeah, I've never really thought about the meaning of the comic strip, and why would it be unique, or why would it be chosen over another art form. So that was a thought-provoking question. So I hope I was able to provide a thought-provoking answer.
Well, yeah, like, so what I've posed, I think, before is that you can, I don't know if it's showed up in a previous episode, but what ends up happening a lot of the time is that the comic, if it's done well, or at least done in sort of at least done well or done in okay, the comic can serve as a storyboard, at a bare minimum, should be able to serve as a storyboard for if it's going to be used as an adaptation. Not that I'm saying that it is only for that purpose, but all of the elements should be there should you aim to adapt it, right?
Yes.
And so, let's say in the example of an animation that's being produced using a comic as a base, it then is up to the animators to fill in, the gaps, or maybe a comic doesn't necessarily execute in a way that is perfectly adaptable for the animation, and so they have to work a little bit harder. So that, because like you said, there are things that the artist can choose to do with time that might not translate to an animation, right?
Yeah.
And so it will then be up to the animators to pull off some tricks or to take, take liberties with the source material. And before I go on like a crazy thing about it, I'll say like one thing. For example, last year, the anime for Mob Psycho 100, which I've been trying to get you to freaking watch or read, whatever. You'll do it eventually.
I will. I
when
probably
somebody
will.
else tells you to do it. So what happened is, like, the beginning, it's a wind up, like it's an emotional wind up to get to the emotional. I mean, there's a literal and figurative emotional buildup within the series that whenever the main character gets to 100%, something happens. But it's kind of like, if you're going from the manga perspective, if you start reading the manga, the wind up is pretty slow. And so what some other folks have brought this up, but what the anime did is it took like extra chapters or side stories that weren't really like super important, and they turned those into like the B plots of what's happening in the episode. So they were able to fold in this extra stuff that's not super like important, I guess, like kind of important, kind of neat, and then but also keep the story going in a way. And keep the audience wrapped in, like, engaged. Yeah. Like some of the stuff, because like I don't know if I think I had you watch like the first episode of it or something. Yeah. But like the tunnel, like that's like from, I don't remember the exact one, but that's from like chapter 10 or 15 rather than chapter 1.
Oh.
Yeah. But it didn't really matter because it didn't really actually have
it wasn't intrinsic to the plot. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, that's a lot about choices that you can make when you decide to animate something that exists in a comic.
Yeah.
To start.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting how they're able to do that, because especially in comics, you think of the entire page as the composition, whereas like in a page can have as many frames as the artist chooses to draw in it, whereas when you adapt it to film, whether that be animation or like a theatrical like film, you're only looking at one frame, versus like when you see these artists drawing their panels, like one can bleed into the other, or you've got one panel acting as the backdrop to a bunch of like smaller panels within. Like, to have the responsibility to make those choices of adaptation. Like I'm really glad I don't have that responsibility, because it's really having to take somebody else's vision and turn it into something new while still being faithful to it.
Right. Well, I mean, I feel like, I was going to say you have to really want to do it to be involved in that, because I think that it's really hard to live off of that kind of work. It's more like you're surviving, based on my loose understanding of the whole process, which might even be worse for people who make comics. So I don't know.
The guy who made One Punch Man, though he's very involved in the uh in the anime, right?
I
Or
believe I mean, like, he's not directing it, but what's nice is that, like, the thing I said about storyboarding is a lot of it remains unchanged.
yeah,
Like,
his frame for frame, yeah.
yeah, because he already did it so well the first time, whether or not the art looks, super great according to, standard,
Yeah.
well, visual standards, you
Yeah,
expect a certain
yeah, I've
level
seen
of,
his stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the way he frames the shot is very film-like, and it
Mm-hmm.
adapts very well. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
that might be what contributes to this success
Of the
on the whole.
transition, yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of, I don't know how involved he actually is. I want to say that he's like in the studio and stuff, but if they have directors for that that actually have the experience in animation to use his blueprints, I guess. Yeah. But okay. So then, but okay, we've only been talking in one direction, like from comic to film or animation, but you have experience, because I tend to avoid them, but you have experience, at least with a Gundam example, in watching something and then reading something that it becomes, right, or is adapted from that. So what would you say about that? Or what could you tell me about that? Like, does it suffer from it, or does it feel like,
well, I can speak to that specific experience of watching Gundam Wing and then looking for its adaptation. It was a little bit jarring would be too strong of a word, but I was not expecting such a huge difference in style. Because then that thing happens, of course, when you've got another artist involved and you see their mark making and you see their handiwork, and the manga style was very different from the anime style, and it took a while getting used to. Like I just for some reason, if I tend to judge a lot. I tend to judge books by their covers now.
Well, in the case of something that's art focused, it does make sense to judge something
or
by
at
its
least
cover.
Yeah, something that I had grown very attached to in its first form, and then seeing, like, I forgot who, Katoki, if that's his name.
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I never saw it. So.
Okay, well, his style was like very very like skinny characters and like big eyes, and like it just didn't feel the same. And then also reading it, I guess he or whoever wrote it, if it's a different person, took a lot of liberties with the story.
Oh, okay.
And so plot-wise, it was actually very different. So I'm not sure, like rights-wise, or copyright-wise, how that happens, especially in the anime and manga world. Because I know that people make adaptations from the manga to the anime, but I guess that's the first time I've been confronted with, they made things different when they made it into a novel or they made it into a manga. So it was, I guess, towards the end of it was kind of nice seeing them in a different light, because it offered like a different ending for some of the characters, and you could spend a little bit more time on like the emotion of some of them. And then I think, like I had mentioned before, like they had really lighthearted 4-panel comics at the end, so that was also really another way to see them in a different light. So I think it was just like an exercise in just accepting different interpretations of something that you really love.
That makes sense. And I feel like I've had that experience, and generally I reject it. Like, I tend to prefer whatever the original, like whatever the source material is, because I feel like when I first experienced it, in that form,
Mhm.
it feels more like that's what was intended.
Yes, like
The
this was what it was meant to be.
right, yeah.
Mhm.
Not to, and then I mean these
Mhm.
interpretations exist at a base level to make money, cash in on people who are fans of certain things. But you would also hope that whoever's in charge is also, putting a bit of themselves into this interpretation,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So maybe that means that I'll give the Gurren Lagann manga a chance, because that was my example. It's like I love the anime, and then I went to go look at
Yes.
the manga, and I was like, this does not satisfy
Was
in the
it
way that the other. Not that it
was it
was terrible. It just wasn't
okay?
what I was looking for at the time. Like,
What was it kind of like my experience where the artwork was like off and the plot was different, or?
I think that it is a series that definitely um benefits from being animated.
Mhm.
There are and animated first,
Mhm. Mhm.
because they set the bar for what you experience the first time.
Yes.
And
I can see that. Yeah, especially after with you showing me it and remembering the animation. Now I remember it was one of the most detailed and most fluid. I would say is the best word for me to describe it. Like fluid animations that I've seen was with that. But go ahead.
yeah, so like basically when I went to go find the manga afterwards and then I saw it, I was like, this isn't like there's something missing here, and
Mm.
I don't think I would actually feel like I didn't feel like actually spending money on it because it wasn't satisfying in the way that I was looking for. And it could be, because I was looking for what I had found in the animation, that it wasn't giving me that. Maybe that's the problem.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I'll have to give it another look and see how I feel about it.
Yeah. Let me know how
Like,
that goes.
yeah, we can do a thing on that, I guess. Required reading for the future. Not a terrible idea. I feel like that'd be fun, like a fun thing to talk about.
Mhm.
Okay. So, is there like anything else? I feel like we talked about like actually a good amount of stuff. But
Yeah. No, this was fun.
is there anything else, comic wise, that you wanted to express or came up in your head, in your brain?
Mm, it was really early on. I wanted to bring up. Now I am.
Well, that's what it's for.
And that another one of the things that I liked growing up was or at least that I had growing up was a Christmas edition of like a compilation of Peanuts comics, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't even like Peanuts that much, and the comic,
Not
not
the
the not,
tasty protein snack.
not the legume,
All right.
but yeah, that was also, I think I enjoyed reading that maybe more for like the history of it. And I got it
Okay.
when I was young, but I think I must have enjoyed because it compiles a lot of the Christmas comics over the years, and you can kind of see the art style change over
Oh
the
yeah.
years.
Oh,
So
that's
kind of seeing that is pretty sweet.
yeah. I love to see the evolution of a newspaper strip comic. Well, I mean, any at all, really. But
Hmm.
there's something that happens to newspaper comics. Um, like I don't know if they just like, what is the word I use? They kind of streamline it so that they can make it like more appealing to the masses. Because there's a way that they look in the very beginning that's really like you
Mm.
could tell that it's really like it's kind of raw, but also kind of
Hmm.
like true to the original artist's like
Yeah.
aesthetic. But then it also
Hmm.
but then over time it becomes this sort of like not a product, but you know what I mean, like maybe they have character sheets eventually or something that like
Oh yeah, yeah, and they start really defining like what's on model and what isn't.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that can
Uh,
not suffer
I,
for it necessarily, but it can change the way it is, I guess, the way it
yeah,
is
no,
expressed.
I totally get what you're saying. something a little bit more sterile about it after a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
And
that's a good way to put it.
I had that with I think I've talked to you about this comic, Mega Tokyo. That I only read the first one, but in that you can easily see from like the starting panels to like the final panels, and if you got a glimpse of like the next few books in the series, which I never quite read, but that exactly that happened. Of like he found his hand, sort of a thing, and he found his way of drawing, and it came about over time. But it's very tangible. You can really see it over a matter of pages. It's really interesting. Seeing that evolution.
Yeah, it's been a while since I read it, but I don't remember talking about it with you. But yeah, I can sort of see what you mean. So wait, what was that?
Next time I see you. Oh, go ahead.
I'll have to look for that Christmas compilation of Peanuts, because that'd be really cool to look at.
Yeah, it was like something like they were selling like at a Starbucks or like TJ Maxx or something, like limited, like quote unquote limited edition, like special print.
It's on Amazon or something though.
Oh yeah.
Right, shouldn't be too hard to find.
So yeah, next time I see you, I should bring this thing over. I found it at a thrift store.
Places. Okay, yeah, definitely.
Oh no, not the Peanuts comic. It's I got like a history of comic art. It's been sitting on my desk for ages. But I've been meaning to show you. Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. Then yes, we'll have to do that. Okay. Lastly, finally, is there anything that you would like to recommend? Something that you really want people to check out and read? I didn't put a hard number on this before, but let's just say like 3 things. Like, and I'll put links in the description so that people can check it out.
Okay.
So 3 things you want people to read.
3 things I want people to read. Man, I can't even think. I would say, I hope this counts as a comic. Ali Broche, anything from her, a Hyperbole and a Half blog. I would say it counts as a comic because she sort of she draws and she story tells, and she does them mostly at the same time. So that feels like a comic. A lot of dialogue.
Yeah, let's go with that. I didn't know it was Broche. I assumed it was Brosh. I don't know, but whatever. Okay, so Hyperbole and a Half. Cool. Yeah, this is hard, right?
This is hard.
I mean, it's just like whatever feels like whatever you'd be into, or that you'd want other people to get into, or just something that's dear to you, I guess.
I would say, let's see. I'm actually looking at my bookshelf right now.
Well, that's a good way to do it.
Comics I have. Oh yeah, I still haven't gotten into it, but I'm probably going to do so pretty soon. The Thrilling Adventure Hour. It took adaptations from the podcast and I think unaired podcast episodes, and they turned it into comics.
Oh, okay. Oh, you were telling me about this one before, I think, right?
Yeah, it's pretty great. It feels like a radio drama from the 1930s, and it has something in there for everyone, from like kitschy, spooky horror stories to a Marshall on Mars trying to tame the West.
That's John Carter, I think, right? Okay, so thrilling. Did you say Thrilling Adventure Hour?
Yes, the Thrilling Adventure Hour.
Okay. One more, at least one more. Just one more. I think it's hard. I think you're already having trouble.
Okay, one more. Randall Munroe's What If.
Randall Munroe's What If.
Yeah, I think it takes. I think it has a mixture of comics, but it's mostly actually really stupid scientific questions answered in very smart scientific ways with comics and illustrations inside.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I'm going to say that these are the most unique recommendations that I've gotten on here.
Awesome.
But that's neat. I'm happy to have something different and interesting. So
Yay.
I'll be putting links in the description to those. Hopefully people will check them out. I imagine you can get it all on Amazon. If you can, I'll find something else. But yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks. I think that's it. Thanks for coming
thanks
on.
for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to TCFCF. Tune in next week for another conversation about comics. And don't forget, the Comic Fiend is your comic friend too.